It is very important to understand that governments and government central banks deliberately create inflation. And right now, around the world, most countries are aggressively cutting interest rates, and politicians and bureaucrats are telling you that they've solved the inflation problem. But let's have a look at the world's largest economy and the reserve currency, the US dollar. Inflation numbers out this morning. How are they doing? The Federal Reserve, their central bank, has a mandate to keep inflation averaging 2% over time. It used to be a 2% ceiling, and now it's 2% averaged over time. Let's have a look at how they've done. This graph here goes back to 2021. And if I use my new fancy drawing tools and I draw a line around the 2% level, you can see that for the last 4 years, inflation has been well above 2%. And in 2022, in June of 2022, inflation peaked at 9.1%. So that's way above the 2% target. And note, at no point in time has it ever fallen below the 2%, what used to be a maximum target. And in fact, it's 2.7% right now. If we come across to the core inflation rate, so that's where they exclude the so-called volatile items of food and energy, those things that you need to buy just about every day of your life, or at least use every day of your life. And if we take the 2% number, let me just line that up again so it's nicely in line. And you can see the inflation rate, even on the core level, peaked at 6.6% in 2022. At what point in the last 4 years has it ever come below that line? I mean, you'd think they'd have to let it run at 1 or 0% for a couple of years to make up for all the years it was way above it. So you can see the inflation problem not solved. And if anything, you could make a case that the inflation is starting to bottom and turn back up. And let me just clear all those drawings. And we come across to, there is one that the Federal Reserve likes to use, which is called the core PCE. Now, this is where they exclude a whole bunch of stuff so they can basically produce a lower number. And you can see this one didn't peak as high. It peaked below 6%, and that's because this is a very doctored number. And at no point in time has it fallen below 2%, even by this measure. You can see that's the 2.3% level. It's flattening out, and in my opinion, likely to go back up. But let's have a look at one more chart in the interest of keeping this under 3 minutes. This blue line here represents if the Federal Reserve had managed to keep inflation at 2% from 2020, the price of something would be $289 based on this index. Right now, because inflation has run way above, we're 11.4% above the trend. So that'd have to allow, we need 5 to 6 years of 0% inflation just to get back to that 2% mandate that they claim that they average over time. So the inflation is a massive problem. It's created by governments. The problem has not been solved. Stop listening to these bureaucrats who are patting themselves on the back and telling you that they fixed a problem that they create.